It's a bit out of place compared to how other people react when we walk past.
No, not really. We're just being the same as all
of
the
those
citizens.
reasons are the reasons why our attention's been drawn to you, and the reason why I've just come over to just carry out what's called a stopping account, just to see what you're up to, make sure everything's all okay, make sure you don't need police for anything, and make sure you're not up to any no good, because there are quite a lot of people up to no good around here as well.
Yeah, we're just going to get food.
Okay, no problem. And do you live around here?
No, from Liverpool.
So you've arrived from Liverpool recently, or?
Been here for 2 weeks.
Okay.
We're leaving today.
Are you both from Liverpool, are you?
Yeah.
Okay, no worries. Do you have any ID on you then?
No, I don't, you know.
No? So you've come all the way from Liverpool with no ID? I'll take your details in, if that's okay.
I don't really want to give you my details, to be honest, mate.
I mean, a lot of the time, if people haven't got anything to worry about or anything,
I have got nothing to worry about.
then they're happy to comply. It just makes the encounter
I'd rather not.
sweeter and easier.
I'd rather not.
Right, okay.
From the very beginning, this officer shows why so many people have lost trust in street policing. His reason for stopping Shem is simply the way you reacted when you saw us. But people react in different ways for many reasons. They may feel nervous, surprised, confused, or even annoyed. A person's facial expression or body language alone is not evidence of criminal activity. Using it as the basis for a stop is speculation, not professional policing. The situation becomes even more questionable when the officer asks where Shem is from and begins suggesting that traveling from Liverpool without identification is somehow suspicious. That argument makes no sense. There is no law in the UK that requires people to carry ID, and there is certainly no law that says traveling without it is suspicious. Instead of relying on genuine evidence, the officer appears to be searching for any excuse to justify escalating the encounter. When Shem calmly refuses to provide his personal details, the officer falls back on a familiar line: if you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to worry about. This phrase is often used to pressure people into giving up their rights. However, choosing not to provide personal information when there is no legal requirement to do so is completely lawful. Exercising your rights should never be treated as evidence of guilt or used as a reason to increase police scrutiny.
Okay. Listen, there's no power for me to enforce on you to give me your details, so I'm not going to get silly about it. Yeah. But there's obviously, it might suggest to me there's a reason why you don't want to.
There is no reason, I'd just rather not. I've been through a lot with the police, I don't really trust the police. I'd rather not give you my details, unless I'm legally obliged to. I'm not legally obliged to give you my name, so I'm not going to.
Okay, no problem. No problem. How come you've got quite a big, thick coat on today then?
Because we've been out since 6 in the morning, and this morning it was cold.
Right, okay,
yeah, we've just come from the gym.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright, and have you got anything on you that you shouldn't have?
No, I haven't.
No? Okay. Well, your mate's being searched in a minute, so... You're still cold, are you?
Not really, it's a bit warm now, like.
Yeah.
What do you want me to do? I've got it now.
The officer's focus on Shem's coat says a lot. Instead of accepting Shem's simple explanation that he had been to the gym and had been wearing the coat since the morning, the officer treats the coat as if it is evidence of criminal activity. But why? It seems he believes Shem must be hiding something under it, even though he has no proof. That belief is not based on facts or evidence. It is based entirely on assumptions. In policing, acting on assumptions instead of evidence can easily lead to an abuse of power. Rather than relying on reasonable suspicion, the officer appears to be searching for any excuse to justify his actions. When one reason fails, he quickly moves to another. First, he focuses on the coat. Then, he questions why Shem is not carrying ID. After that, he points to the way Shem reacted when he saw the officers. None of these reasons, on their own, provide lawful grounds for suspicion. Instead of presenting genuine evidence, the officer keeps piling together weak arguments in the hope that they will somehow justify the stop.
I didn't even see you pull up there till you called me. I only seen you down there, and even he said, how come you were staring at the van? And he's probably already told you. We were looking at the tactical support group, and I asked him, what does that mean?
Try that one more time. Have another read of that.
Alright, give me a shout if you need it.
Oh, territorial.
There we go, mate.
Sorry.
Yeah. My mate asked you if you've been arrested before.
Yeah.
Have you been arrested before?
Yeah.
What was that for?
I've just got out of jail. I got a not guilty. I just got out 6 weeks ago.
So you were remanded for court and then you got a not guilty?
Yeah, this is what I was on the TV show for.
Oh, right.
I was on the run for like 9 years.
You were on the run for 9 years?
And then I found martial arts. I used martial arts to change my life from what I used to do before.
What were you on the run for?
It was an aggravated burglary. I just got a not guilty. I've only been out for 6 weeks.
I spoke to my colleague. From standing here talking to you, I have been able to smell cannabis coming from between the two of us. And that's even when I've given the opportunity for other people to walk past and stuff, like other people to like leave.
Have you smelled cannabis on me?
Well, I can smell it in the air as well, mate. It's lingering a lot of time.
When there's nobody else around, so I'll give you the benefit of that.
This is the moment when the officer's desperation becomes obvious. After failing to justify the stop based on Shem's attitude, his lack of ID, or even the clothes he was wearing, the officer turns to a final excuse, the alleged smell of cannabis. But there is a serious problem with that claim. If the smell had really been so strong, why wasn't it the first thing the officer mentioned when he approached them? Instead, he spent several minutes asking about where Shem was from and why he was wearing a coat before suddenly claiming he could smell drugs. That raises an important question. It appears the claim only surfaced after the officer realized his earlier reasons were too weak to justify further action, and that Shem understood his legal rights. The situation becomes even more revealing when the officer asks his colleague whether he can smell cannabis on Shem. Rather than confirming the claim, the second officer simply says he can smell it in the air. He does not say the smell is coming from Shem or his companion. That difference matters. If even another officer cannot confirm the smell is coming from the people being searched, the basis for reasonable suspicion becomes much weaker. To that point, the officer's justification appears to rest on assumption rather than clear evidence. Using a vague claim to support a stop and search raises serious concerns about whether the legal threshold for reasonable suspicion has truly been met.
That coupled with your behaviour, okay, combined,
what's wrong with my
specifically you, because I'm dealing with you, the fact that you did, upon seeing us, look back a couple of times, you've suddenly sort of turned around when you've probably realised we're closing in and maybe coming over to speak to you.
You're just making this up now, mate.
I'm not making anything up. You've turned around.
This is fabrication, that, mate. All of that.
When my colleague asked you what you was doing over here, I mean, you know, it's not in the best condition, is it?
I was looking at on the wall and saying to me, mate, look at that.
Okay, well that's
we don't need to watch over our shoulder. This is why no one wants to deal with you, because look at the stuff you're saying.
Because not many other people, again, are reacting to that when they're walking past.
We did.
So I'm not saying that you're lying, but all of these things combined, the fact that I can smell cannabis and your behaviour, and the fact you're in an area where there's quite a high use of cannabis and quite a lot of drug crime.
That's nothing to do with me. We're not from here, so I'm being detained right now.
Yeah, you're detained for a search for drugs, and it's under Section 23 of the New Drugs Act. Alright, I'm PC Shenray from Chadwell Heath TSG. You're entitled to a copy which you can have now within 3 months. You are detained while I search you. Again, another reason is you're wearing quite a thick coat, and it's...
So I'm being detained because I'm wearing a thick coat. Did you just say that? One of the reasons, and the other one's me behaviour.
And the smell.
I haven't done nothing suspicious, mate. No, you can't smell no cannabis from me.
You are detained for those reasons. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. Do you have anything on you that you shouldn't have?
No.
Okay.
The officer relies on Section 23 of the Misuse of Drugs Act to detain Shem for a search, claiming he has 2 reasons for doing so. Shem is wearing a thick coat in 21-degree weather, and he finds his behavior suspicious. But neither of these reasons provides strong evidence on its own. Wearing a coat, regardless of the weather, is not a crime or a sign of criminal activity. People wear different clothes for many reasons. They may have just come from the gym, prefer a certain style, or simply feel comfortable wearing a coat. Shem had already explained that he had been to the gym and had been wearing the coat since earlier that day. Treating someone's clothing as a reason for suspicion without any other evidence is a weak justification. The officer also points to Shem's behavior, yet throughout the encounter Shem remains calm, respectful, and in control. He simply chooses not to provide his personal details, which he is legally entitled to do. Exercising a legal right is not suspicious and should never be used as evidence of wrongdoing. The real concern is that the officer appears to rely on completely lawful behavior to justify using police powers. When ordinary actions are treated as suspicious without clear evidence, It raises serious questions about whether the search is based on genuine reasonable suspicion or simply unsupported assumptions.
Therefore, we're putting a complaint on this, like, because this isn't on this, mate.
That's absolutely fine. You're more than entitled to complain if you're not happy with the services that you've received today.
Obviously not.
I know it's not nice being searched. I know it's an intrusion of your day and your privacy, perhaps.
Whereabouts are you?
Got quite a high amount of cash. What's this for?
Is that illegal as well?
Well, potentially.
Me living.
I don't know, do I? It could be. Not many people walk around with this much cash in them.
Well, I do.
So, okay. How much is there?
Probably about, I come down with $2,000. So whatever I've spent on me hope.
Do you not have bank cards or anything?
Nah, just cash me. How can I have a bank account if I don't have a passport? I'm still fighting to get my passport back off the police.
As the search continues and the officer fails to find anything illegal, he changes his focus to the amount of cash Shem is carrying. Instead of addressing the lack of evidence, he questions why Shem has nearly £2,000 in cash, suggesting that most people do not carry that much money. However, carrying a large amount of cash is not a crime and, by itself, does not prove any wrongdoing. It appears the officer is searching for another reason to justify a search that has produced nothing. Rather than accepting that no evidence has been found, he shifts his attention to Shem's personal finances in an attempt to keep the suspicion alive. When the officer asks why Shem does not have a bank card, Shem calmly repeats what he had already explained. He has recently been released from prison and is still waiting for the police to return his passport and other personal documents. Given that explanation, the situation is easy to understand. Despite receiving a clear and consistent answer, the officer continues asking questions and ignores the information Shem has already provided. Instead of considering the facts, he appears determined to keep the pressure on, even though the search has failed to uncover any evidence of criminal activity.
Being detained for wearing this jacket, he said.
Yeah, you have to take the circumstances as they are as a whole, rather than just pick one item that you don't like about it.
I don't like all of it, mate. I don't agree with any of it.
Pocket, mate, what?
I'm not agreeing with the search even.
Like my colleague said, we appreciate that it's
This is why no one wants to deal with this, bro.
It's not about what people want to do with us, it's about who we speak to.
This is why the community don't comply. You were alright, you should probably get compliance. I'm not complying with the search. I don't want to be searched. I do not want to be searched. No, I do not want to be searched.
That's all. But you're not resisting, you're being compliant.
It's against us.
Another thing, you're wearing what looks like a big lady to a balaclava. What is the purpose of that? I've basically meant exactly how I've just asked that question. I don't know.
I'm using it to keep the dreads neat. Is that alright with you?
Well, you're giving me a count, so that's fine.
That's why no one wants to deal with the police. Horrible, mate. Just walking to get a scran. Here's 20 minutes out of your day. Cheeky.
This entire encounter shows how police powers can become questionable when they appear to be based more on assumptions than on clear evidence. The officer's original reason for stopping Shem was simply, the way you reacted when you saw us. But people react differently in unexpected situations. Some look surprised, confused, or uncomfortable, and none of those reactions alone provide evidence of criminal activity. Instead of relying on objective facts, the officer seemed more interested in gaining compliance than establishing reasonable grounds. When that approach failed, the officer looked for other reasons to justify the stop. He asked where Shem was from, questioned why he was not carrying identification, and used the familiar phrase, "If you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to worry about." However, there is no legal requirement to carry ID in these circumstances, and choosing not to provide personal details does not automatically create suspicion. Exercising a legal right should never be treated as evidence of guilt. The officer then focused on Shem's clothing, suggesting that wearing a thick coat in warm weather was suspicious. Yet people wear certain clothes for many perfectly normal reasons. Shem had already explained that he had come from the gym and had been wearing the coat since earlier that day. Clothing alone is not evidence of criminal activity. It appeared the officer had already formed an opinion and was trying to find facts that supported it instead of allowing the evidence to guide his decision. When those reasons failed, the officer suddenly claimed he could smell cannabis. If that had genuinely been the reason for the search, it would have been expected to come up at the beginning of the encounter rather than several minutes later. The situation became even more questionable when another officer said he could only smell cannabis in the AI, rather than confirming that the smell was coming from Shem or his companion. That weakens the claim that there were clear grounds for reasonable suspicion. The officer then shifted his attention to the money Shem was carrying. Having nearly £2,000 in cash became the next point of suspicion, even though carrying cash is completely lawful. When asked about it, Shem calmly explained that he had recently been released from prison and was still waiting for the return of his passport and other documents. Despite receiving a reasonable explanation, the officer continued pressing the issue instead of accepting the facts that had already been provided. In the end, the search produced no drugs, no weapons, and no evidence of any offense. Two men on their way to get food were subjected to an intrusive stop that took up their time and invaded their privacy. Whether viewers agree with every criticism or not, the encounter raises important questions about how police powers should be exercised and why they must always be supported by clear, objective, and lawful grounds. Public trust depends on officers using their powers fairly, consistently, and with proper accountability. That's all for today's video. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Your support helps me continue creating independent content. Also, be sure to check out Shamrock. His channel is linked in the description below. Show him some support, and thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.